For today's Mythology Monday, I wanted to share with anyone who's listening, with anyone who's going to view this, a Tawahka fable. The Tawahka are an indigenous group who live in Honduras, and they have a very fascinating fable about the importance of listening to directions. I hope that you'll take some time out of your day to listen to it with me, and to eventually let me know what you think of it and if you've ever heard of any similar myths or fables. This tale begins simply enough, with twins, a boy and a girl, living happily with their family. When tragedy befalls their family, only the twins are left alive. And when the twins are the only ones left alive, life begins to become considerably more difficult for them. It becomes a struggle every single day to find food. That is, until the brother, who is a scavenger, goes out and finds an orchard in the mountains. There's a period in time in which the boy's discovery of the orchard has gone unnoticed by the orchard's owner. And during this time, the boy is able to happily and eagerly get food for him and his sister. And during this period, his life becomes considerably better. Unfortunately, soon, his discovery is noticed. And what happens when his discovery is noticed is that the owner of the orchard sends in a guard during the day to go and check, to go and keep the orchard safe from thieves and scavengers. And what ends up happening is that the boy notices the guard. So he carefully pays attention to the guard's patterns, and when the guard leaves for the night, the boy goes in and he starts taking more fruit, and he is able to get away with it. The owner of the orchard notices that his fruit has continued going missing, so he sends out a demon to guard the orchard during the day and the night. When the boy attempts to go and get more fruit during the night, he is captured, and both he and his sister are taken as slaves by the demon who guards the orchard. This is when the life of the two twins becomes harder than it's ever been, and likely harder than it'll ever be again. When the demon took them hostage and kept them as slaves, what ends up happening is that the girl would make food for the demon and for them, and the boy would go and gather firewood so that way the food could be cooked more easily. During this period in time, their lives were filled with immense difficulty, and it was very difficult for them to do anything that gave them any sort of happiness. Eventually, they both began to feel depressed, and it was during this time that the demon decided it had had enough, and began to plan to eat them. The demon's murderous scheme would eventually be noticed by a bird, who would go on to tell the boy what to do. The bird carefully told the boy that the demon planned to cook them and eat them that very night. And in order for them to escape this fate, the bird instructed them that they would need to ask the demon how to dance when it asked them to dance on top of a gigantic pot of boiling water that it had made. And in doing this, they would have an opportunity to trick the demon. When the demon said yes, it would teach them how to dance, they very carefully needed to go out and remove the lid that was keeping the demon from falling into the water. When the demon fell into the water, it would burn, and in burning, it would die. But what happens next is very important. They would eventually be able to go on and trick the demon into doing exactly what the bird had told them to do, and they were able to trick it into the water. When it fell into the water, it perished and burned to ashes. The boy and girl would scoop out the ashes and put them in a jar. And now they had one very important final task. They needed to get the jar of the demon's ashes to the other side of the world, across the sea. Unfortunately for them, they had no way to know how to do this, so they would need some help. And when they asked for help, a deer and a toad would volunteer to assist them, and eventually would get into a fight over who got to do this. The toad would come out on top. The toad received very clear instructions on what to do with the jar of the demon's ashes. It was told not to open the jar under any circumstances, and also to get it across the sea to the other side of the world, where it would be able to dispose of it safely and without the twins or anyone else in their home being harmed. The toad began its long and dangerous journey by attempting to cross the seas in one night. When it got tired, it would stop at an island and rest. While it was resting, it got distracted and forgot the specific instructions that it had been given. When the jar made a sound from the inside, the toad foolishly decided to open it. And in opening it it unleashed a swarm of mosquitoes, of locusts, of bees, of all sorts of flying, biting insects that would go on and ravage the mountainside for the rest of time. The immediate consequence of opening the jar was that the toad would get attacked by the tens of thousands of insects that came pouring out of it. And in doing so, it would receive permanent injuries that it would never be able to get healed or removed in any real way. And it also cursed its descendants with the same fate. This Tawahka tale about the importance of following instructions carefully and to the letter goes to show that when you follow instructions carefully and to the letter, amazing things can happen, like when the twins were able to overturn their fate and defeat the demon. But it also goes to show the disastrous consequences of not following your instructions very carefully, like when the toad opened the jar despite being told not to. This is a very fascinating tale, and it's a tale that I love to tell people. I would absolutely love the opportunity to chat with anyone who found this tale interesting, and if you guys have any questions, if you guys want to read it in Spanish, I'll be linking the Spanish section down below as well, and I will also be happily responding to anything that you guys have to ask or anything that you guys have to say. If you enjoy this sort of content, just know that every single Monday I plan on creating a video where I talk about indigenous mythologies and where I share fascinating stories, myths, and legends. And I would love for you to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date with the latest Mythology Mondays. Have a wonderful day.